I have so much to share with you today. No kidding. And I have something that, well, I've never done on this channel. I just do it for myself, maybe for a few close friends that I'm going to show as well on here. And I think this probably is going to be a two-parter again. So this will be the first part, and then I'm going to ask you to go to True Oracle, and I will put the link here so you can then finish with part 2. Because this is typical retrograde, crazy nonsense that is coming out. But I have something that I also want to show you that is not. I don't know where to start, quite frankly, because there's so much. But I guess the thing to start is, this is the big book of Bull. This is the hand of fate that holds the key to what's going on in the Nancy Guthrie case. And here we go, my darlings. We are now on. I hate to write this, but I have to. It is day 151 of Nancy Guthrie. And July 1st, 2026. So many questions coming out. Well, first of all, I have a little treat that I want to share with you. This little treat, because here we go. I'm going to wind back the clock again. All right, the energy is there. I'm going to wind back the clock to 2019. Yes, here I go again, Zelda. 2019, to an NBC interview with Savannah Guthrie and Miss Virginia. We're going to just call her Jenny, but her last initial is G as well. Now, everybody asked me, but Zelda, what's the big deal about that? I'm going to show you the big deal about that, because first of all, that interview, Miss Jenny G, who is no longer with us, who passed away, and I'm not going to say how, but I do not believe that it was with her own hand, and that's what I'm going to stand by. What did Virginia or Jenny G talk about? Well, the Epi guy, the one with the island, and it's not Gilligan. But what happened during that? Well, it wasn't so much about Epi, because it was about, now we're going to say, the ex-prince. The ex-prince Andrew. Her interview there spawned interviews that brought that situation to a halt, to their knees. It brought so much attention that I believe was blamed. Now, I'm going to tell you this. Why would Brother Cameron why would he say to Savannah, this is because of you? I'll tell you why. He's part of the military. They have trained military people to be in this sixth sense. He was probably saying, be careful, you're bringing our mom into the same situation. You're flaunting her around, you're showing her bedroom, be careful. And sometimes when you're just wanting views, you don't think, oh, I dotted my E again, that must mean something. When you want views, look, I get it. But that was the beginning. that was the beginning, because let's not forget, 3 days after Nancy was missing, those EPI documents were dropped within 3 days. But why was this such a big deal? Because up until then, there was a lot of rumors and a lot of things going around. But Miss Virginia made it her mission to bring this forth. And Miss Savannah was pushing in that interview to get this information. It may not have seemed like it, but she poised her questions that way. NBC should be held responsible, in my view. That's my opinion. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a doctor. But there's things here I think that we really just need to come down to the brass tacks. Today, or actually yesterday, Reuters basically said, the FBI said, oh, those ransom notes, they're fake. And then we get Harvey back on, and he's with TMZ, back on the internet today for about 5 minutes saying, oh, no, wait a minute. Now, I know that Reuters said this, but I contacted my people at the FBI. You know, your people call my people, we'll do lunch someday. They said that they feel, well, that 2 of the ransom notes might be real, but these, oh, they don't think they're really real. Why Harvey felt that he had to come back and say this. Now, first of all, Harvey, I have a question. Why you? When they could be contacting anyone else, why you? You remind me of a song. What is it? I like a lot of songs from the 70s and 80s. There's a lot of songs, but one in particular song is Mr. Big Stuff. Who do you think you are? Remember that song? Do you remember that song? I do. Does he want to have some semblance of importance? That's my question. If you can't tell that I'm sort of kind of fed up with this, because there's so many different things going around. Now remember, there's a plea hearing tomorrow, and that is July 2nd of 2026. I almost said 2022, 2026, where the one ransom author, Derek, I think he's got a C in there, and we'll just put that, has changed his plea from, pardon me, that is a kitty who decided he wanted to get into a box and the box wasn't having it. He decided to change his plea from not guilty to taking a plea deal. Now, why do people take plea deals? Well, when you know there's really, this is a federal court. And you know, if you get that far in federal court, you better be thinking about things. There's not too many people that walk away with a not guilty verdict in a Fed court because there's so much that they have. But that little complaint that was filed against him is very telling. The text to the family members, so on and so on and so on. We went through that a while ago. We're not going to go through it now. But I want to come back to this whole thing because I know many people don't agree with it. But I think things are coming to a new light because Brother Cameron came up with this idea, this little light bulb. Why did he come up with that? And why did he tell Savannah that long before the feds even said too much of anything? And by the way, Kash Patel, the director, Here we are, Cash. The director of the FBI came out today. I saw the press conference. Someone asked him about the reference notes. And you know what he said? No comment. Just remember, we are assisting. This is a state matter. So now the FBI has kind of drawn the proverbial line in the sand. Why? Well, at first I think they have a lot of these people are saying, sources and resources. But they have been held at bay by whom? The Pima County Sheriff Department. It's, yes, that Pima County. And that brings that back to Sheriff No-Nos. I'll be nice today, or try to. Now, I, in my opinion, feel this goes so much deeper, that Nancy Guthrie is a victim of a revenge plot, and that is my opinion. But I'm going to show you something here right now, and I'm going to do this to give myself a little highlight here, so when I'm editing, I'll know where to put it. What you are seeing on your screen is a copy that I found today. I was able to go into Google Trends today. You may have to pause this, and you may have to do the little, squeezy type pinchy thing. What you're seeing on the screen is the results from Google Trends. There was a Google search January 11th through the 17th, I believe. If not, forgive me, but it is starting at January 11th. There are 11 searches. You'll see there, it's a little graph, okay? It's a little graph. You'll see a little pyramid shape, and then it goes really high, and then it kind of flattens out. Well, this in particular comes from the Grand Junction area of Colorado. January 11th of 2025. I backed up a little bit. I'm sorry, no. 2026, my bad. I backed up a little bit, and there were searches on her in November, right around November 25 of 2025. Those were image searches. And then it went on a little bit, and then right at the time that she went missing, February 1, there were more searches come out of there. Now, obviously, people are going to be Googling her and going through. But why January 11th? Now, I want to remind you that the one image that they had from January 11th of Nancy Guthrie's is the man, the porch guy, looks like him, standing away from the entryway, just standing there at her front entrance. Now, I have some questions, my darlings. I have some big questions. And those big questions are, let's turn the page. Wow, look at this book. I think we have maybe one case in here other than Nancy. Look at this. This will be kind of eye-opening, I think, to look back on this one day. So this is page 2. We're going to continue here. My question is this. Who has those images of the porch guy? Because I want you to know this. When you get images from like Google or Google Nest or any of those, they have timestamps. And yes, those can be edited out. Now, I'm not saying that these do, but I'm saying, where are they? Where are the timestamps on these images? You just don't pull images off from somewhere and say, oh, well. And then there's the question of who had them. My other question is, what images do they have on the inside of the house that they're not showing? Who has these images? It would not surprise me if it were Pima County. However, could it be the influence of the feds asking Google to get these images? The next question I have is this. These came from Nancy's security camera. Obviously, she didn't, not her, but obviously the family didn't pay for any type of security services. Why? Well, your guess is as good as mine. Didn't happen because somebody couldn't pay the $40 per month. But hey, no judgment. But you would think that someone in the family would be looking at those images. Now, she said she wanted those cameras so she could look at the wildlife. That's fair. That's fair. Nancy is at a time in her life she should be enjoying the wildlife that's around her home. Well, this guy looks pretty wild as far as I'm concerned. Why was he missed? And that was supposed to be, again, January 11th. But going back, my darlings, that's when the first Google trends, not the first one, but a big one. And I put that on the screen. You may want to back up. That's when the first Google trends started. Why? Why? A good 2 weeks plus before she was ever taken. And then there was a search in November of 2025. There were 11 searches that day on the 11th, as far as I can read that correctly. I even put that up there, my little pictures in the corner, so you know that I didn't fake that. I am convinced. Now, I'm going to tell you, I don't have to put the pieces of the puzzle together to figure out who was in the inner circle of Nancy that got to her, because that's not my job. People already have this information, so please don't write to me in capital letters. You need to give this to them right now. Honey, my darlings, this has been given to them since I first found out and since I first had it. And it's not up to me to make anyone do it. If no one wants to believe it, that's what makes the world go around. That's everybody's privilege. This is what I feel. And if they would follow those IP addresses from those searches, yes, they have them, then they may be able to find something. But what about Brother Cameron? What does he know? And I keep thinking, do those siblings, are they on the same page? In the meantime, all of this rhetoric with these ransom notes and everything else, Savannah now has, or is, as far as the last thing I heard, taking another sabbatical from NBC. So what's all that going? What is all that going on? So you see, my darlings, there's something here. Now, the other question I have is this. Not only about the security system and the cameras, because I do believe that there are images from the inside that nobody is seeing. Where are those, and why haven't we seen them? Are they being gatekeeped? Yeah. Gatekeeping by, in my opinion, possibly, sort of, kind of, maybe. So where is Nancy? I have an idea. I've also given that up too. But there's only so much that I can do. No, she's not being held somewhere in somebody's basement. No, she's not. She was put somewhere where it would make her go away very quickly. And I'm just going to say it like that. This is very disturbing because from everything that is coming out, and don't get it wrong. We are still going to get more information. We're still going to get more information about this. I just don't want to forget anything. I made some notes here on the side. I don't want to forget anything to give you. But at what point, because you see, Harvey gets on TMZ and everybody just jumps. Well, I jumped a little bit, but not that high. I want to know where Nancy is. I want to know what is going on with her captors. More than one, plural. Where are the family members? What are they doing? And then I heard something today. Now, I don't know if it's nonsense or not, but that the oldest daughter and her husband had a septic emergency that next morning after, I think, Nancy went missing, and had the septic pumped for $2,000. Now, I don't know, who at 2 o'clock in the morning, who comes out? Wouldn't the neighbors know if a septic trunk or tank or truck, multiple choice, would be out in the neighborhood doing that at 2 a.m.? I mean, hey, things like that happen. You have an emergency with your septic. Is it overflowing? But who has that information? And now, with Kash Patel, who is the director of the FBI, stepping up and saying, look, we're just here to assist. We're not. So that puts it right back into the little hands of Pima County. Will we get the truth? I don't know. Quite frankly, I don't think so. My other question that I have for you, my darlings, now is this. Everybody talks about, and I saw those people remotely in Nancy's house. I saw those people. I saw remotely the shadows. I saw remotely different things, but I saw remotely Nancy in a chair. I saw a box of Band-Aids on her counter. There was a lot of things. The house was clean. It looked live-in. But here's my question. How, and has anyone answered this, how did these people enter? How did these people enter Nancy's home? Oops, hello. I was just testing you to see if you saw that I was going to use the wrong end. How did these people enter Nancy's home? How was that? Because has someone told us? If they did, tell me, because I've looked and I can't find it, but who knows? Maybe I'm looking in the wrong direction and I'll be the first one to admit it. But do we have forced entry? Forced entry. Or did somebody just use a key to get in? In the readings the other day, we saw keys. We saw keys. Did somebody just use a key to get in? Now, I'm going to show you, and I want it to show up very well, so I'm going to get Moisha. And I think I'm going to use, no, I'm going to use the energy from this reading. This, my darling, is what I use. Now, this is going to make some noise. For those of you who can't handle the noise, you might want to mute right now. But I've got a little cup here, and I'm going to shake this cup, okay? It's going to shake. Hang in there. Okay, just going to be a second. This is reading charms. Now, where are we? Someone facing the music. this is a broken heart. But look, time comes up, and there's a bat there, which is a nocturnal. So this is all about timing and at night. Now I'm going to turn these over because they're pretty cool, but I'm going to turn these over because we want to see what they are. Flame. Here's another flame, and here is a moth. So that tells me that someone was drawn to Nancy's house. Here is a safety pin, so someone felt safe in entering. And then here are the jewels, both on the bottom end of this. Here is the skull, which means someone is going to have to face the music for what has happened to Nancy. Now, there was a wrench thrown into the gear. Do you see this? That's not a wrench, but that's kind of like the arm of a clock. This cross came out that was this way. So things went sideways. Who did this? Well, a bunch of snakes. But look what we have here. Look what we have here. We have a watch. Now, that's a little watch. And I'm going to try to lift this up here so it doesn't move so you all can see this. Can you see this? I can't get it any closer. Here's where we are. But you see that watch right there by the snake? Could that be Nancy's Apple Watch? And here is the key pointing to the heart. Now this heart has an all-seeing eye. I love this. I love this little charm. I should make a bracelet of these things, but I like reading them better. So there's an all-seeing eye, which means there's some trust. There was trust here. But this moth has been, well, this moth was drawn to the flame. So someone looks as though they were talked into this and they were winging it. The keys on opposite sides. There is a key with a wise owl. Let me see if I can show you that again. There's a key with a face of an owl. And then there is another key right there, but it's pointing in a different direction. And that key there that is pointing in a different direction tells me that they may have tried to use a key, but there was another way of entry. And you see this wrench in the gear, actually this arm of a clock is pointing toward the key. This safety pin, sort of a little contraption here. I kind of like him too. You want to take a look at his face? That's him. But this safety pin, it doesn't really work. It's just for aesthetic purposes. But this safety pin tells me they are about to pin this on perhaps someone else. This skull came in upside down. That tells me that Nancy was not alive. So facing the music is basically it. Look, the point of the heart is here, and then we have the jewels all around. Now, when did this happen? Was it close to the gem show? But I do not believe that the gem show had anything to do with it. But definitely there's a snake in the grass that someone knew. See, another question that I have for you. What proof do we actually have of Nancy being taken? Other than my remote view, but what proof do we have? What evidence is there other than the statement of someone who really may know or may not know? Join me over at True Oracle, and we're going to finish this up. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you there. Bye for now.